Welcome to Pillow Talk. We are Grant and Stephanie, Forever with Purpose, where we aim to end frustration through better communication.
Yes, we do.
So this is our second of our new episodes. And so today let's talk about values.
Okay.
So tell me all you know. No, we ain't got that kind of time. Never mind. No.
Well, no, values are important though, aren't they? We talked last time about being able to be intentional about asking better questions, and about, part of that is when you're married is not being afraid to ask questions to each other. That I think sometimes we get afraid to do that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
We get guarded. Pillow Talk is unguarded, intimate, and authentic conversation, and we do kind of get used to just knowing where that wall is. That I can be right there, and then I won't go any further, because then it's going to create something different in our life that I really don't know that I want to deal with.
It's all created off of reactions in past,
Mm-hmm.
So you put up that wall.
Yeah. But in talking about values, one of the things that we discovered is that right there,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to word that, we started identifying that as being a core value that's been violated. Yes. And that's why we feel that reaction, and we have that sting, and we lash back out at our spouse, and our spouse says, well, I'm not going there anymore.
Right.
And so then the questions stop and the communication quits, and then frustration builds because mm-hmm. expectations don't match up with reality. And that's why we've always felt like core values is such a huge mark of a good marriage. And what we found is that those core values, the meanings of those become deeper and deeper as we continue to unpack that with each other and ask the better questions.
Right.
And help each other see identifiers of like,
mm-hmm.
well, that's because that's a core value for you, and it's been violated. And it's like, oh, I didn't even see that.
People don't get married to not communicate. They, even quiet people,
mm-hmm.
they are not together not to
mm-hmm.
have intimacy and communication.
Sure, that's a good point.
But I've said this before, but like when we got married, I love you for everything that I wasn't. Then we got married, and I wanted you to be just like me. And because you weren't, I would shut you down on things that you would say, or vice versa. You would say something back in a way that would then offend me because,
Sure, because my core value had been violated.
Right.
And so the only thing I needed was to get snarky right back. Right.
Yeah.
And I think snarky is a great word in marriage. I think we get really snarky with each other, and that's all it is. We mm-hmm. just don't take the time to actually stop and think about what that sounds like. And to your point, I would lash back out at you. And I thought it was just because I was just mad at you. But what was really mm-hmm. happening was you had trust is a huge core value for me. Mm-hmm. And with that, the meaning that I assigned to that, you were violating that, not because you were doing something wrong, but in how you were not trusting me to make a decision or to have a different opinion than you, mm-hmm. and trust that I was still, somebody that you can respect and love. That trust was being violated. And even though I didn't know that was a core value of mine, I felt the anxiety and mm-hmm. the tension and the violation of that. And that's why it's so important to have this communication together as a married couple. That may take a while, and that it's not a one-time conversation. And I think women have a lot more words. I think most women are way more compatible to the idea of conversation than men. Mm-hmm. Men are like, I just want to come home, pop a cold one, and watch the game. I really don't want to talk to you, but I want you to be here with me, but I don't want you to talk to mm-hmm. me. And I want you to speak to that in a moment, how that's changed for you. But I think it's vital then, if that's how your relationship is, it's very important, husbands, to at least let your wife know that I do care about you and I do want to have a conversation with you, but I would like to set parameters on when that is.
Right.
Because if you don't ever have a conversation, it's not good. Mm-hmm. But if the only time you have a conversation, wives, is when he's come home from work and he's exhausted, then that's not good either.
Right.
So respect each other's boundaries and things like that, and begin to talk about core values. And we're going to walk you through some mm-hmm. of this in a minute, but start with understanding that, lay the groundwork. Mm-hmm. So that you can fight for unity.
Right. Yeah. It's like, if you come home from your own hard day to hear about your spouse's hard mm-hmm. day, you want to hear about that, but probably not while your brain is still fried from your day, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's, again, that can just cause a little friction that
some conflict.
unintentional, you know.
Yeah, nobody, and we're humans. We naturally are narcissistic in our demeanor as human beings. We have to work hard at not being narcissistic. And, you know, we want to just think about ourselves. And it's not that we're going out every day to think about ourselves, but that's just how we're raised from the day that we're born. Somebody else take care of me, somebody else feed me, somebody else, and we just never really walk away from that.
It's part of the fall, you know. I mean, if being like Christ means that others are first, it makes sense that the fall created others are last, you know. So
me first.
It's a me first. It's just getting things out of line, and that doesn't mean that nothing's ever about you, but it does mean that, you know, it's not a me first. It's what can I do first. Let the other person bring you into it. Instead of you looking to how do I insert me,
right?
You know, so that's but yeah, on the value side, you know, we had to learn not only what our values were separately, but what our values were together. And the ones that are together, what we strive for together, and the ones that are different, we respect
and we leverage.
Right. And then we got to realizing that even the ones that were the same were different.
Yeah. Well, we assigned different meanings.
Right.
And then what do we find? We understood that, wow, that was probably more important than even well, you can't assign a meaning to identify it, but just stopping there. And that's what I love about marriage. If you truly look at this as a journey, nothing ever, it's like the more you unpack and build, the more there is to unpack and build in a good way. And I love it. We've been on this journey for, I don't know, specifically forever. Well, for 37, or what did you always say, 120 years? But I think so. You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot, and we probably have done this on a previous Pillow Talk, but it's just part of who we are as a married couple, is that we learned from Greg and Julie a very powerful principle in our marriage, and the way they articulated it, I think, is what we love, is that we fight for unity and we build towards common ground.
Right.
And we ask the question of what do we really want? Instead of being problem focused, we say, what do we really want? And then we begin to assign our core values to that, leverage our strengths, and then we find that common ground, and then we fight for unity. We don't fight each other. And that has helped us so much, hasn't it? To be foundational.
And just to kind of clear up, because you don't know who Greg and Julie are, because not everybody does. I don't know why.
You should know Greg and Julie.
Exactly.
They're awesome.
If you don't know them, you need to know them. They have married for a purpose. We've actually been certified underneath them. I met them at the John Maxwell program. If you hadn't heard John Maxwell, there's another person you need to investigate. But after seeing them up on stage, I went and bought their book, brought it home, put it on the bookshelf pretty much.
2016, 14. Oh, wow. 14. Okay.
And so didn't really think much more about it. I've always, if you've got a book and I know you, I'm buying your book. So just let me know you got it. So that's kind of what I did with them, even though I didn't know them yet.
Even a coloring book.
Even a coloring. I'll get more use out of it. So, you know, even though I didn't know them yet, but I started following them on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And then I got to see what they were doing with marriages and starting to hear their heart and their dream. And there was some kind of link there. And so God just really blessed me with the opportunity to meet them at the next John Maxwell certification that I went to, which was in 2019. 18. And
early 2018.
Yeah. And we just found out we have so much of a kindred heart.
And I loved when you came home, because we felt like we had been for decades trying to find this articulation of what we had in our hearts, right? And we knew that we wanted to help people together. We were doing some things separately, but we wanted to do something together. We knew that God had put us together for a reason. And wow, when you came home from that conference and had that time with Greg Gorman, and this just began to ignite in us, and it was just so powerful that
we'd go for drives,
you know,
and we'd take their book. I want to endorse the book Two Are Better Than One by Greg and Julie. It was the start of us putting our heart into action, I guess. It was realizing that
having a picture of
we had done a lot of things that they had done. We had discovered a lot of things that they had discovered, but we had never been able to put it down on paper or took the time to. It's like they were just speaking our language. And so when they got to the part, I remember driving around, and I think we were actually still in Florida.
We were still in Florida. I came and met you there after the conference.
So,
and we did a couple days.
We got to the values page, and I think we were somewhere around Naples.
Yeah, Naples, Florida. Yeah, we were actually.
And seeing all kinds of alligators. We were having a great trip. And but that's when, because that's when we started taking a very good marriage to a great marriage.
Absolutely. And we saw that common ground.
Yeah. Because we were in the next stage.
Really saw that common ground. Yeah.
You know, kids graduated, grandkids were showing up. And we just knew there had to be more than sitting around the house waiting for the grandkids to come visit. You know, even though it's very important, it's not much of a life.
It's not 24/7.
It's not 24/7.
It's not supposed to be anyway.
Yeah. If so, we got problems. And then, you know, we found out to be on common ground, we had to know each other. Well, that's kind of what knowing each other's values.
I was going to say, I think you really have to know each other. And you see, I think for the first time, we were able to articulate well that narrative of where we were different. And it was okay for the first time in our marriage that it wasn't like, it was like, oh, because it's a strength, because we were in a space where we recognized that we are different for a reason, and we leverage that strength, and we can build on that. And I don't know, that was just a huge thing for us. And, you know, core values are who we are. And when we recognize that, that helped us to begin to establish clear parameters for our vision, didn't it?
Right.
Because then we knew that it helped us to know what to say no to and what to say yes to. It helped us to know direction. It helped us to know, do we link up and invest with this or this? And because we began to have this ever building and increasing understanding of who we really were. You know, we talked about this on the last Pillow Talk about design and who am I? Well, it starts in your core. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like an apple. You know, the core of an apple is where the seed is.
Yeah.
And it's in that seed that multiplication of fruit is produced. But until you get that unpacked, until that seed is released from that core, so it's huge. Your core values are huge. They will definitely give you direction.
Yeah. And I think finding your core values and investing have a lot to do with each other. Not only are you actually investing in yourself, but they're just like investing, as far as you can be putting money into something, then all of a sudden realize that's not exactly what I wanted my money in. So you pull it out and you put it somewhere else. Well, you can do the same thing with your values. Your values are who you are, but you're probably not going to nail them on the first try.
Oh no, and I think it's kind of like it's a raw material. And it's kind of like, so think about that seed for a minute. Think about of your core values as a seed, that there are seeds of greatness in you. And if your core values identify that, I think as a gardener, not a gardener, but a gardener, when I have a plant growing in my flower bed, as it begins to come up, I may or may not recognize immediately what type of plant it is, but I know it's something that's a plant and not a weed. The more it grows and the more it begins to be more defined, the more I understand what it is. And that's the way with our core values, I think. If you don't start to cultivate that, water it, and begin to watch it grow, then, so in other words, if you go to a conference and they say, give us your top 10 core values, and you do a list, you did it, and you put it on your wall and you're done. That's really not effective.
No.
Because you probably only have about 5 that are super, super core to you.
And maybe less.
And they evolve. And I love the word evolve, because evolve is you're taking something that's there, but it's growing and evolving into something that as it evolves, it's a brighter and bigger picture, and it's more defined, and it's more, the more defined it is, the more its purpose is revealed.
Right. Well, your core values is going to help you identify your identity, understand your identity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your identity then is going to help you operate in your purpose.
Absolutely.
And, you know, your purpose never changes. but your understanding of that purpose will change
Yeah.
regularly
Yeah.
as you grow and grow and
Yeah.
grow.
Mhm.
So, you may think, well, my purpose is to create this widget.
Mhm.
No, your purpose will be revealed to you by creating that widget, because it's the person that you serve with the widget that
Yes.
becomes
Yes.
that's truly
Yeah.
your purpose.
Right.
And so that's why it all, but you have to have a starting place.
You
And,
do, and
and your
that's why I
values
think
really help with that.
that's what's so important. And I think because it doesn't sound super sexy or
Mhm.
fun, people just like, well, I don't want to work on my core values. It's just who I am. Well, no, who are you really?
Mhm.
Don't just say it's just who I am. You can't say, well, I'm just super talkative. That's just who I am. Okay, well, no, that's not who you are.
Right.
That's
another
an
lazy answer.
outflow.
It's kind of like the question why is
Yeah.
a lazy question.
Yeah.
That's who I am is a very
Yeah.
lazy answer.
Find out why you think that's who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, unpack that a little bit. So,
and here's the thing, you don't have the right to be a certain way because someone else hurt you or
Right.
did anything.
Mm.
That is not, all that is a boundary that's keeping you from being who you are.
Mhm.
And you have
Yeah.
wore it as a badge of
Mhm.
honor of who
Oh,
you
yeah.
are. And
You see that a lot. We see that a lot. And I don't know that it's conscious, but I think people do wear their hurt and their circumstances as a badge. And it's pretty much like,
Mhm.
don't pass my tough barrier, don't, whatever that is. And at the core of that, it's like you're missing out on the impact. If you don't unpack your core values, you'll never be able to have impact.
Right.
And without impact, you can't expand.
Mhm.
And without expansion, people aren't reached for the kingdom. And I think
Right.
that's all wrapped up in your design.
Mhm.
And so honestly, if your answer is always, well, that's just who I am, and I don't really care to dive into this anymore, then what you're telling God is, you created such a broken design in me that I don't even have to, that it's not even worth unpacking.
Right.
I guess it's not broken. What I would say different. I would say that better.
Just look at something that is like a rapper.
Mhm.
A rapper raps about the things that's happened in his life to him
Mhm.
that caused him to be the way he is, basically. And really, in the whole mindset of life happens for you, not to you, those things were preparing that person, the rapper,
Mhm.
to have influence with
Mhm.
the other person that's going through that,
Yeah,
and to help
absolutely.
lift them out of that
Yeah.
instead of helping them stay in it. That's why,
Yeah.
to me, rap music can be such a dangerous music,
Mhm.
but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. It doesn't take you beyond, right. It doesn't take
Right.
you beyond where you are in the moment.
Because they
And-
never understood what their values was. They have
Yeah.
misconstrued values
Mhm.
of, as a man, or they're a woman, whichever. I mean, they're both kind of rappers,
Yeah.
I guess. That they then think that they have to have a certain persona,
Mhm.
and so their values become money and sex,
Or in any
and
kind of
all
genre,
kinds of
in any
things.
sport or any
Yeah, I'm just
entertainment. Yeah,
a lot of the other
it's
things
so
doesn't
huge.
actually talk
Yeah.
about.
Oh, I
the
see what you're
stuff.
saying.
That's right.
Actually, in the words of the songs.
Yeah.
Or the music. Yeah.
Country music a little bit more
Yeah.
than other musics. Rock music just kind of gets you never know where
Repetitive.
it's going.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
I
so it's
think,
your values.
I think one of the things that I've written down that I think about a lot is that even if I have never intentionally identified my core value,
Mhm.
I subconsciously thrive when I operate in them,
Right.
or I am anxious and stressed when somebody else violates them.
Mhm.
So to me, those become two warning lights,
Also identifiers.
that, hey, if I feel like I'm thriving,
What are you
just
doing?
because you're feeling like, oh, I love to do this. Wait a minute.
Right.
Ask yourself the question, why do you love to do that?
Mhm.
Because that's probably going to help you identify something that's very core to you.
Right.
And in identifying that, that's going to help you experience what you love to do on purpose,
Mhm.
because you know that what you're doing on purpose and you're thriving, and it's actually impacting another
Right.
human being. And vice versa. If you're feeling anxious and stressed in something, and I'm not talking about you have a season of anxiety at work because it's the time of the year when it's stressful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when it's something that is every time you bump up into that situation, you feel anxious and stressed, or violated. Why? Why
Right.
are you what is being violated in you? What is that person doing? And it's not the person, but what are they exhibiting
Mhm.
that is violating something in you? Whether that is, maybe they don't have a work ethic and
Yeah.
you have such a work ethic. It's so core to who
Mhm.
you are. That can be a core value. And then your coworker is just constantly, ragging that because they don't have one at all.
Right.
Well, all that means is you don't share a core value there. So it's
Right.
an indicator that at some point you need to begin to find a way away from that relationship. The person isn't bad, but unless you're married,
Right.
there's not going to be common ground built on those two opposing core values.
John Maxwell always says that, you know, people don't quit jobs, they quit people, and that's
people.
fine.
Yeah.
So let's take that across the board. People don't quit marriages.
Yeah.
They quit their spouse. And the reason they quit their spouse is because they're continually violated. It's one of the reasons.
I believe that. Yeah.
And so, you know, that's what, if you're not having the communication that helps you get through that frustration, then you definitely are going to become extremely frustrated. And we're not made to stay frustrated for long periods of time.
No, because it's actually scientifically proven now with some really cool, you know, because I'm a health nutty person and love anything to do with health and fitness. But that's something that's been scientifically proven is that, you know, the fight or flight, the fight or flight is in there innately in you to protect you. It's not to be for an extended period of time. And in America, especially, I only say America because I've never lived anywhere else, but our fight or flight isn't like it used to be. We don't have to go out and fight a woolly mammoth or, well, a saber-toothed tiger. I don't guess you fought a woolly mammoth. Or we don't have to go out and, you know, run from something either.
Right.
And so what we do is our bodies are designed to handle stress, but we then keep that stress level constantly.
Right.
Because it's maybe a more subdued fight or flight. But so my point in all that yakety yak was, if you find yourself in a constant state of anxiety and stress and feelings of violation, then take a moment and start to ask a better question. What is going on that is causing me to feel this 24/7, for lack of a better parameter? It shouldn't be 24/7. We're designed to handle it for short spurts and short seasons. We are not to live in that. If your job, I hope I'm okay saying this, if your job creates so much stress in you that you literally are just sick because of your job, there is no money that's worth that job. And you need to begin to evaluate. That doesn't mean you quit tomorrow, but you need to start evaluating, why is this job stressing me? Is there something simple I can go to my boss and say, can I tweak this?
Right. Yeah, it ain't necessarily quitting.
It's not quitting, but it's don't just stay there.
Right.
That's being lazy and you're killing yourself with your stress.
Oh, you
know
need
your
to
core
find
value.
out. You need to know your core values. You need to know your 1 degree. You know, what actually is your green arrows, what your red arrows. You know, green being positive, red being negative.
All that stuff
and all that good stuff. That so once you start to learn that, you know, your green arrows will help you know what your values are. You'll be operating in those
absolutely
things,
I think the point of all this is just that, you know, identify and then know. It's to identify and know is a level, is a progression. But then I want to ask you a question, because we've talked about this and I want you to step into this space a little bit, is that when we begin to identify our individual core values and we share those with each other, because that piece is to help us to know each other. Then there's another piece where we come together with our shared core values as a marriage. But for the sake of right now, we have some very different core values. We have some that we share with, some very different ones. Okay. And when we discovered this, it was difficult because I could give you the name of my core value, but because you didn't understand what that felt like, then you would still bump up against it, because it took a while. And then what we discovered was, as a married couple, I don't have to understand exactly what it feels like for legacy to be your core value. I just have to respect and know that that's an identifying core value for you.
Yeah, we don't need to understand why, but we do need to understand what.
Yeah.
You know, so once I understand that it's one of your values, then I am now equipped to not put stress on that value. You know, it now becomes my fault. You know, without, I hate the blame game, but if
there's some responsibility,
if I'm intentionally, and it takes a little practice. I mean, still screw it up to this day, but it takes a little practice to finally say, it ain't worth saying this right now, or it ain't worth doing this right now, or it is worth doing this right now. You know, if, you know, and I won't say this is a core value, but it's, you know, your house being a certain way means something to you.
Mhm.
So
Organization is
okay, so
is
that's
a core
the value.
value.
So for me to intentionally be disorganized is
Mhm.
very disrespectful.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good
And
example.
so now, me as not an organized person, it's a very intentional act
Mhm.
for me to do something.
Mhm.
So by me understanding that about you, I'm doing my best to not be disorganized. And by you understanding the opposite is true with me, gives you grace
Yeah.
when I am being
Sure.
disorganized.
And I think I'd even take that a little pivot, what you just said about that.
I don't sniff cocaine, but something gets in my nose.
I know there's like something. I know there's something in the air. Oh no, now I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, so this is such a fine thing, but this is so huge, ladies, right? Sometimes it's the little things, it's the little foxes that spoil the vines. Knowing that I know that you know the organization and neatness is important to me, just you acknowledging that takes a huge load off of me, because now I don't feel weird and guilty and pressured because I am that way.
Right.
Is that a good way to say that?
We had a little bit a deal yesterday that just you walked in and I realized what you said like 2 hours later. I didn't catch what you said when you said it. You said you have some clothes in the washing machine. I heard
I knew you didn't hear
I
me.
washed your clothes. That's what I heard. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Then I heard the washing machine open about 2 hours later in the dark, and I'm like, oh crud.
Yeah. But see, I didn't get mad at you. No, I wasn't mad.
But the reason is because I've made a conscious effort over the last couple of years of actually doing the laundry. I'm not avoiding it.
But that's such a great picture of that, because ladies, how many times you've been like, oh my God, all he wants to do is sit in that super recliner and it has 5 feet to walk in here and do. Okay, I could have went all ape crazy on you right there, and I almost would have been justified because I was working yesterday, but the whole point of that was I knew he either didn't hear me or there was a misunderstanding of that, or he just hadn't gotten to it yet. But I thought, I don't want his stuff to get wrinkled. I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the dryer.
We had a talk 100 years ago now that, you have the right to expect me to take out the trash. You do not have the right to when I take it out.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And so sometimes I just don't want, you win because you wear me down because you wait too long and I just do it. No, not on purpose, but isn't that a great example though of that? But because we have understood each other, because we have assigned meaning to our core values in the last 4 or 5 years, we don't have to talk about this all the time. It's not like, honey, remember my core values organization. We have just had enough conversations, and the next piece of that, we've actually assigned meaning to what that is. See, organization isn't just about, there's times I look at myself and think, well, I'm not really that organized. I see somebody else's clothes. I'm like, oh my gosh, they are so organized. It makes me look like a slob, right? It's not about the process of the organization. It's about the atmosphere that the organization creates for my home. And I want peace in my home. Right. What do I really want? I want peace. For me to have peace means I maintain it on a regular basis. I don't let it get to the point where it's chaos and I have to spend 2 days doing laundry to catch up. Or when a company comes over, I've got to move something off the furniture just to get a place to sit. And I am not slamming somebody who does that, because if that's not a core value, it's not a core value. I don't care. If I come to your house, I don't care. I'm just saying for me. So it's assigning meaning to what that does for me. Why am I violated when because I start to feel anxious, because I thrive when I have an organized atmosphere, and I know everything has a place and a place for everything. And then when you say where it is, I can probably go tell you where it is. Right. So it's a strength to our marriage, but I don't expect you to be that way. I mean,
but what mine is, I learned to appreciate it.
Right. Which takes pressure off me, because you do appreciate it.
And that's kind of the negative side of it. That's like where our values are different, but there's also assigning meaning to where your values are the same.
Yes.
And that was probably as big a deal as anything.
That was really cool, actually.
We both have a core value of family, and family means everything to us. It's one of my things that's off the question.
Right.
I don't question family, and I don't question my Savior.
Yeah.
But what we found out was we define family differently.
And because we assign a different meaning to it, at first we were frustrated, weren't we?
We were.
Because we both had the expectation of, yeah, but family is a core value that we share. But the reality was we have assigned different meanings to that. And when we began to unpack that, we realized, oh.
Yeah, like her definition for family is quality time. And mine is, if they need you, you drop everything and you go.
Which is actually one of your strengths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm not starved for the quality time on as often of a basis. I mean, I'd want it, but I don't want it necessarily every other day or every week.
But I do.
You know, yeah. I mean, she just lights up at the thought, and that's
kids
cool.
Or grandkids. It's all of them.
It's just, and for me, she knows if the kids call and say, "Hey, I have a leak," it doesn't matter. You just fixed dinner.
Exactly.
I won't be eating it. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You know,
and it doesn't matter how much money you have to spend to fix it, or how frustrated you get, or how tired you are doing it. That is a core value. And that's such a key right there. Even spending quality time with my grandkids, that is so important to me. It puts me in a position where my business that I own is forced into a different box. That is not easy, but I could make my work life a whole lot easier if I didn't spend quality time on a weekly basis, hours of time on a weekly basis, not only quality time with them, but also assisting my kids so that they can do the things that they need to do. It's twofold for me. And, you know, what I learned was I have to be okay with the conflict that comes from that. I have to learn that, you know, my business, when I'm in the office on Saturday, like I was today, because I sacrifice that. I say yes to my grandkids. And as a result, I have to say no to fun time on Saturday because I need to work, because I'm going to take care of my clients as well. Okay. Does that make sense? So it helps you say yes and no, and it helps you to know, it helps you to understand, you know, that Tuesday and Thursday is valuable to me, because that's the time that I get to spend with the grandkids. And I might add this, that it's not just to play. There is an inherently purposeful reason behind why I want quality time with my kids, because it's in the quality of time and the quantity of time. It's actually in the quantity of time that you get the quality of time a lot, but it's the conversations that begin to happen throughout their life that I can come alongside my kids and I can partner with them as they raise their kids. I can hear the things that the grandkids are struggling with, or I see the personalities begin to develop, and I can help them with a different perspective. And that takes a lot of time, but that is huge for me. So obviously huge, different, you know, meaning to that, but that's helped you to not get frustrated with me when you're like, and you'll say, hey, are you going to work?
That you love also.
Well, that's true. That's true.
You know, both ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps you say, go do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
And it helps me say, get them over here.
Yeah.
You know.
So hopefully that's a really good, you guys can get a picture of that when you guys sit down with your spouse, and we would encourage you to do this. If you guys need a list of some core values to get you started, you know, how would they connect?
Message me.
Message
me on Facebook, or you can, and you can do that through Forever with Purpose. You can also send us an email to foreverwithpurpose@gmail.com. And you can go to our website, foreverwithpurpose.com. And it'll have a place right there, just right on, I mean, pops right up that you can type in saying, you know, contact me, write in there what you want. And we would be happy to send you a PDF of
just some core values to get you started.
And
it's a great conversation starter, because it's giving you some things like, oh, you know, I really do value quality time. Or I really do. And so that's what's interesting. Like, one of the core values is quality time on the list. But for me, quality time is actually not what I would deem as a core value. Family is a core value. I assign meaning to it as quality time. Does that make sense? So there's so many things that you can talk about and just begin to understand yourself better. And because honestly, quality time, there's a lot of people that I don't care to spend quality time with loads and loads of people.
No.
You know, and I don't mean that as a slam. I just mean that so therefore it's not really a core value. It's just how I define family.
What is the core value? Correct. Okay. Well, thanks again for joining us. We are calling it quits this time. It's
quits for the day.
Quits for the day. We thank you for being here with us, and we will be posting this soon. So Can't wait to hear from you. See you later. Have a great one.